After 2 years of being stuck in a shelter, this dog finally caught the scent of someone familiar. Paquita was familiar with her carers. After all, she'd been with them at the shelter for so long. For 2 years, the stray had watched other dogs go home with their new humans, but she was always left behind. Then, one day, shelter staff took Paquita to meet someone who had a very familiar scent. In 2014, someone took a dog called Paquita to the Arca Animal Shelter in Mar Chiquita, Argentina. The person explained to staff working there that they'd found the stray dog on the street. Apparently, locals considered the pooch a bit of a nuisance, as she was always getting in the way of their bikes. In fact, the person who brought Paquita in claimed that disgruntled cyclists had been throwing stones at the dog. Presumably concerned for the hound's safety then, the person left her in the care of the shelter. But it soon became clear that in addition to having stones thrown at her, Paquita had another reason to be unhappy. On its Facebook page, Arca Animal states that its ultimate goal is to provide comfort to our furry friends. Our main objective is to ensure the welfare of the suffering animal, it wrote. Clearly then, it must have pained staff to be charged with looking after a resident seemingly beyond help. That's because, despite being well cared for, poor Paquita was timid and distant to the point of depression. Not only did this break volunteers' hearts, but it also had another effect. Paquita's demeanor was part of the reason why potential adopters passed her over in favor of other dogs.
Moreover, Sylvia Ferreira, an Arca Animal volunteer who grew close to Paquita, explained that the dog's age also counted against her. People prefer puppies, so for 2 years she stayed with us, Ferrara told the Dodo on October 20th, 2017, but Paquita's withdrawn manner didn't seem to improve much over time. Initially, Ferrara couldn't even stroke Paquita without the dog cowering away, but as time went by, so Arca Animal's determination to find a loving home for Paquita increased. And with this goal in mind, volunteers tried to take a photo of the pooch to post on the internet. Since Paquita was so withdrawn, getting a clear picture of the pooch proved trickier than staff imagined. But they stuck to it, and eventually their persistence paid off. Passable snap in their possession, then they set about uploading it. However, nothing could have prepared them for what happened once the image was online. Immediately, we get a message from a woman, Ferreira told the Dodo. She said the dog was her son's and that he had been looking for her. Given that staff had thought that Paquita was a stray for the 2 years they'd had her, the news must have come as a shock. The woman described how Paquita had vanished without a trace from her son's backyard. Apparently, her son Ariel Navarra had subsequently searched high and low for his beloved pet, but to no avail. And it's likely that after 2 years, Navarra had given up hope of ever ruffling his dog's coat again. Understandably, Navarra was keen to be reunited with his dog, so he arranged to meet Paquita the very next day, on August 6, 2016. But after 24 months apart, neither Navarra nor the Arca Animal volunteers could be sure how things would go. Consequently, all parties braced themselves for possible disappointment. And, at first, disappointment looked to be absolutely in the cards. Captured on a video uploaded to YouTube, the reunion took place on a piece of land next to a car park. The footage shows an initially apathetic Paquita moping around behind her handler. By all appearances, the dog seems to be her usual depressed self when she first claps eyes on Navarra. But then, the hound catches a whiff of her estranged owner's scent. Things slowly begin to change. Paquita approaches Navarra warily, as if the dog can't quite believe what her own nose is telling her. But then her tail starts to wag furiously, and after that, her pain and sorrow just seems to melt away. Paquita pushes her nose into Navarra's face and leaps into his arms. Paquita appears to be so ecstatic to see her human after 2 long years that she can't stop kissing him. In fact, she only ceases when she rolls on her back to allow Navarra to rub her belly. And when the pooch eventually gets back on her feet, she literally jumps for joy. "It was beautiful," Navira later said of the reunion. "I was so sad to lose Paquita, but to get her back was spectacular. There are no words to describe it. And from the pictures of the two together, it's clear that Paquita thinks so too." It's likely we'll never know the full story of exactly why Paquita was handed into Arca Animal. Interestingly, though, the center claimed that it was Navira's neighbor who brought the dog in. A post on its Facebook page from August 6, 2016 asked, "Why did the neighbor do what he did?" "We don't know," the post continued, "but his wrong judgment deprived Paquita of the love of his family for too long. However, the truth is far away from his version. She had a family and was happy. Whatever the answer is, at least Paquita finally found her human." And although Arca Animal had to say goodbye to Paquita, they were thrilled things ended so well. The group even penned a touching farewell on Facebook. "Dear Paquita," they wrote, "your foster moms, Susanna and Sylvia, love you, and now we're happy for you." Speaking of Sylvia Ferreira, she shared an update from Paquita's home on November 1st, 2017. Happily, the dog looks transformed. Gone is the sad pooch that stayed in the Arca Animal Shelter. These days, she's the picture of happiness and wears a huge grin on her face. Paquita's family must be so grateful to Arca Animal for looking after their pooch for so long. And now, pooch and owner can make up for those 2 lost years, content in the knowledge that they're together again. Ariel Navera is a happy man, and then some. "We're super happy," he says.